Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on your Wednesday morning rise and shine. Natural health this morning here. And our topic here is young Americans are the loneliest. Young Americans are the loneliest, looking at some of the latest information that's coming out of what's going on in our society. So welcome again to our live talk program. Top of the morning to you here, and hopefully at a blessed night rest. And thanks for stopping by here with me this morning as we do our natural health program. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for your love and for the blessings of your word, and for the blessings, dear Lord, of the revelation that you continue to give us of how to live, dear Lord, and be as how you would have us to be in this life. May you bless us, dear Father, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen. So we're looking here at this topic, and it is on, I have three articles to share with you, and then my main focal point that I want to talk to you here this morning about is this idea here, this latest research that came out this week, that young Americans are the loneliest. So the youngest Americans are the loneliest. And I think this is a concentration of what you call a cultural norm. And so we're going to read about that and read about the latest research put out there by, or I guess sponsored by Cigna Health, the health insurance company there. So the loneliest Americans are the youngest Americans are the loneliest. So before I go into the first two articles, which is just something I want to update you on, two different things I want to keep you updated on. I want to read for you Proverbs 18 verse 24. Proverbs 18 verse 24 says, "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother." And so there's a thought to start our morning here off and before I go into my articles. So a man that had friend must show himself friendly. So with that, I'm start off by just a update. A few weeks ago, or not so long ago, I'd cover a little thing about some of the pig farms that are run by Smithfield Foods down in North Carolina, Tar Heel area. And these farms and these hogs produce a lot of poop, and their waste cause a lot of discomfort to their neighbors. And there were lawsuits that were filed against these big pig farms. And last week, the lawsuits were rendered. So I'll just read a little bit quick, a little 3-4 paragraphs here on what happened to those lawsuits that were filed. So a federal jury just fined the pork industry $50 million for being bad neighbors on North Carolina's coastal plain. The stench of hog farming makes life miserable. And this is written here, quick blurb here from Tom Philpott, and it reads from Mother Jones. And it reads, "For decades, the largely African American communities situated near massive hog operations in North Carolina coastal plain have endured fetid odor that trigger eye irritation, difficulty breathing, and feeling of stress and anxiety. On Thursday, 10 hog country residents got some relief in the first verdict in a wave of 26 nuisance lawsuits against hog producers in the area. A federal jury ruled that a large hog farm substantially and unreasonably interferes with the plaintiff's use and enjoyment of his or her own property. The jury awarded the plaintiff each $75,000 in compensation plus $5 million in punitive damages for a total penalty of more than $50 million. The defendant in the case, Murphy Brown, is the hog-raising subsidiary of Smithfield Foods, the world's largest pork producer. In 2013, a Chinese company called Shanghai, now known as WH, bought Smithfield for $4.7 billion. In an email statement, Smithfield Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs, Kira Lombardo, called the suit nothing more than a money grab and an outrageous attack on animal agriculture. She added that we will appeal to the Fourth Circuit and we are confident we will prevail. So, just to note there that a jury fined the defendant or the Smithfield Food guilty of being bad neighbors and a nuisance to those living in that area. And if you have kept up and read anything about what's going on with these hog farms down there in North Carolina, it sounds horrendous. Can't imagine. I've been around hog farms before, so I can't imagine living in that level of production, the size and magnitude of the amount of pigs that they raise. So anyhow, the lawsuit is levied against them, and it says 10 hog country residents. So it seemed like it's a. I always wonder about these jury compensation. I know the aim is to hit the company so hard that it makes them force them to have to clean up their act. But sometimes I wonder if this type of money will ever be paid out, or is it just like a joke? So I don't know. It's $75,000 plus $5 million in punitive damage. It seems high, but that's what the juror says, or the judge or whoever say that that's the type of hit that they have to take. So it seems kind of weird, but it's good that they had a verdict at least to say that what the media been reporting, others find it to be of such that it is a horrendous condition these people are living in, primarily poor people. Second quick article here before I go to my main topic is just to give you an update about what's going on around us in the health world. This is now from usatoday.com, and it is entitled by Jane O'Donnell, and it's entitled Feds Warn E-Cig Liquid Companies About Packaging After Thousands of Kids Drink Toxic Liquid. Right, so this is very important here. Federal regulators warned 13 e-cigarette liquid makers and sellers Tuesday that they need to change packaging that markets the tobacco products to children, and has led some children accidentally drinking liquid nicotine. Several of the online retailers were also cited for illegally selling the products to minors. The e-cigarette targeted had labeling and or advertising that looked like kid-friendly food product, such as juice boxes, candy, or cookie, with some including cartoon images. There were more than 8,200 e-cigarette and liquid nicotine exposure among children younger than 6. So mark that, younger than 6, between 2012 and April 2017, according to a recent analysis of the National Poison Data System data. Children are at greater risk because exposure to the nicotine in e-liquid products, even in small amounts, could lead to death from cardiac arrest as well as seizure, coma, and respiratory failure. No child should be using any tobacco product, and no tobacco product should be marketed in a way that endangered kids, especially by using imagery that mislead them into thinking the products are things they'd eat or drink, says FDA Commissioner and physician Scott Gottlieb. Looking at these side-by-side comparison is alarming. So I'm gonna pause there. When you have time, if you have not seen this article is fascinating. You just pull it up on Google or go to USA Today and search this article here, and I'm gonna give you the link again, because you're gonna be fascinated by what these e-cigarette company has done. So it's called again Fed Warn E-Cig, so E-CIG liquid companies. So we put in e-cig or liquid cigarette. I don't know how. Yeah, just put in e-cig liquid, and you probably pull it up. And that Fred Warren e-cig. important for you to see this, because why I want you to see this, because I want you to see the pictures that they use, the side by side comparison. You will be fascinated how I would just say wicked these e-cigarette companies are, because you know when you have those little sippy cups, no, not sippy cups, those little like apple juice that kids they have a little straw, you punch it, and it's a little box like about probably 3 inches tall, 3.5 inches tall. Those little box with the apple, and they look pretty and beautiful, always colorful. They package the e-cigarette in the same box with the same type of very similar packaging to look like the regular product you buy from the supermarket. And so this is what they're doing. So you see the picture, it's either very foolish or very wicked. It's somewhere in between those two things. I don't know if they're just being foolish or they're just being wicked. I guess you'll have to find one of them and ask them. Keep reading the article here. Products targeted included one Mad Hit juice box, right? So that's the apple-looking box, which resemble children's apple juice boxes, such as Treetop brand juice box, Vape Head sour Smurf sauce, which resemble Warheads candy, and Vanilla cookie and milk, which resemble Nelly wafer and Golden Oreo cookie. Whipped strawberry, which looks like Ready Whip dairy whip topping, and Twirly Pop, which not only resemble a unicorn pop lollipop, but is shipped with one, the FDA say. And I'll pause again. When you go online and look at this, you realize that the twirly pop, or the whipped strawberry and the twirly pop product, or the Ready Whip product. If you ever see a Ready Whip container, they duplicated the Ready Whip container and put e-cig liquid nicotine in and Ready Whip container. So if you're familiar with Ready Whip, even as an adult, you could take up the Ready Whip and go and get that whipped cream nicotine product out, not knowing. So you can imagine how much this would trick a child. The federal action follows a crackdown on sales of the Juul brand for under age teen in 7-Eleven stores, Shell gas station, and other vape retailer. The e-cigarette brand is widely popular among high schoolers and has flavors such as fruit medley, cool mint, and cream. And I remember a few weeks back, or probably 2 months or 3 months ago, I remember one of the members of my church was saying to me that this vape thing, Juul, is a big product that is being used, and people are not only using nicotine, but if I'm remembering clearly, was saying they're using THC. And then I think within a month after he's saying that, or 6 weeks or so, I remember the FDA said they're going to crack down. The federal government said they're going to crack down on that thing. So that thing had gone wild amongst young people before they jumped in. So continue reading here. It says more than 2 million middle and high school students were using e-cigarette and other electronic nicotine delivery system. And in 2016, the flavor available is one of the top reasons for use. Nicotine is highly toxic, and these letters make clear that marketing methods that put kids at risk of nicotine poisoning are unacceptable. Companies selling these products have responsibility to ensure they aren't putting children in harm's way and enticing youth use. Gottlieb said, continue to take action against those who sell tobacco products to youth and marketing products to the in this egregious fashion. FDA says it might file injunction and seize products if the companies don't take action to address regulators' concern. So he views it as these products, they're promoted in an egregious fashion. I would just say these products are wicked. As I said, when you have time, just go put in e-cigarette e-cigarette liquid, and the FDA actions against it, and you'll see the pictures. And when you see the pictures, you tell me if a child couldn't get tricked by this much as an adult. So 2 points here before I go to my main talking article that I want to share with you this morning on this thing. So notice here that the children that are being affected, it was 8,200 children had ingested e-cigarette liquid between 2012 and 2017. So that's a 5-year span. So just imagine 8,200 children, and when you see the products that they were, promoted in or packaged in, you could understand why. Because I could see a child taking up the apple juice, and they look at the apple juice, get a straw, punch into the apple juice, and start to sucking on it, not knowing what's going to come out is going to be some toxic chemical for their parents. Then the next thing also is that the question is it that the parents are so childish in their thinking that they are attracted to the cartoons and the kiddie looking products? So I wonder if the manufacturer, we're missing something here, that the manufacturers of these e-cigarette understand the mentality of the parents, the adults they're selling to, and understand that if we package this product with cartoons, the parents will buy it. The parents will buy it. Is this what's happening? I don't know your thoughts on this, but I would surely like to hear your thoughts. Is it that you think the e-cigarette manufacturers understand their customer better than you and I would, and know that if you put put the product in whipped cream, packaging, and in the box, the little apple juice that you would send your kids, when the child is a little baby, toddler stuff, you send them off to wherever, pack a school lunch for them. So if you put the e-cigarette liquid in those packaging, the parents will be more gravitate to buy those products, because the parents' mindset is like a little kid. And so it's the immaturity of the parents. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm thinking probably there's something here. They probably know their customers very well, that they're very childish in their thinking. Also, there is that the products are carelessly put out by the parents. That means the parents know, well, we're assuming they know, but the parents should know that if you put apple juice and a product with the same apple juice box next to each other, it could confuse a child. Now remember, we're talking about children 6 and younger. So we're not talking about teenage here. We're talking about kids 6 and younger. Thousands of them are being affected by these products that are put in whipped cream bottles. So the other fascinating thing is that if you have time and you want to see these pictures, you can go to USA Today. Do click on the left side, the comment section, and find the comments where you're going to find grown adults saying that this is Darwinism at work, where if the kids get wiped out, it is Darwinism because the kids are foolish. To pick up, and no joke, this is so terrible. And you'll find that it is more the conservative commentators, that they're saying let the free market reign, and something along that line, and that it is Darwinism at work, because if the kids are foolish enough to pick up a bottle of Miracle Whip and pour it out and drink it, they're foolish and they should be wiped out. You're going to find that they're defending. So they're into so much defending, leaving the industry alone and no regulation and small government, that they'll come out and blame the kids. And the kids are 6-year-old. It's appalling to see how people can be so blind to the concept of free market capitalism, small government, let whatever be, and no regulation, that they're just like, hey, if a 6-year-old pick up a bottle of apple juice and drink it and they die, Well, that's thinning the herd. Many of them, some of them were saying, not many, but some of them were saying. It was crazy. I saw it and I was thinking, these people have lost their minds. I think it is right for the federal government to come in and clamp down on evildoers who would market stuff like that, even if they're marketing only with the intention that they know the parents are so childish that the parents, if they see, like, I don't know any modern cartoons, but in the past, if say if they put Scooby Doo or Superman cartoon on a package, or draw something of some anime or something, some type of cartoon looking figure, even if it's not hitting any of the copyrights, they know that their customers are so simple in their brains that they'll be like, oh, great, cartoons, yay, and they go buy it. That is still terrible because that tell me that either, again, as I said in the beginning when I read this article, either the manufacturers themselves are so foolish that they couldn't see that this would trick kids also, not just trick the parents of the kids. And knowing that if their customers are so childish and like cartoons, then imagine the kids, how messed up those kids are going to be. So the kids are going to be even more vulnerable. So I don't know if that is what the commenters are saying, that, well, if you have a child, you have to look at it, you figure it yourself. If you have a child, that the child of the parent who will leave a Miracle Whip container that's full of e-cig liquid, nicotine liquid, that probably they're saying because the parents are so dumb or foolish that the child should die. I don't know if that's what they're saying, because here's something I'm trying to figure out. What's their mindset behind it? Are they saying, well, Darwin is working because the parents of these foolish kids should be wiped out? It is weird to read what they're saying because something you can't figure out. Is it they're that crazy? And and are they saying that say you shouldn't protect kids like this because their parents is gonna ruin them anyhow? I don't know. You have to figure out. But they really love free market to the point where there should be no regulation. And the kids should drink all the e-cigarette. Imagine just the kid gulping down the e-cigarette. Ah, man, you can imagine the shock. So that's what's happening in our society. One of the things that happen in society. But surely this is a immoral practice. And you have to, even if you have a child, you have to be careful whose house they go into. Because you can imagine your child by accident go to somebody's house. Hopefully you teach your child not to go to people's house and eat anything or drink anything. But especially if your child go to certain people's house and they go off for them by accident. Say another child come to them and say, hey, you want some apple juice? And the child says, oh yeah, sure. I want to drink nicotine. Now to our main article here as we continue our natural health. My main topic most naturally is looking at young Americans are the loneliest. As I started reading, if one will have friends, he ought to show himself friendly. So young Americans are the loneliest, surprising study from Cigna shows. So it's written by Jane O'Donnell and Shari Rodavsky. And it's again taken from USA Today. And it says young people are far more likely than senior citizens to report being lonely and in poor health. A surprising survey of 20,000 Americans released Tuesday shows. The overall national loneliness score was alarmingly high at 44 on a 20 to 80 scale. But the prevalence of social isolation among those ages 18 to 22 raises even more concern. The younger people part of Generation Z have loneliness score of about 48 compared with nearly 39 for those 72 and older. So quick pause here. So what they're finding out is that young people between 18 to 22 are more lonely than people who are 72 and older. Normally you talk about people who are 72 and older find themselves in a situation where they become very lonely because they sometimes are shut-ins. A lot of their friends and associates have died, so forth and so on. It could be because of sickness, because they're sick and they're in-house, so they have limited mobility. so forth and so on. So imagine now, young people now in our society are registering that they're more lonely and isolated than people who are 72 and older. This is remarkable, but not surprising. If you listen to me here, you know that this is something that I find very fascinating about the culture. It's a very lonely culture. People kind of isolate themselves in plain view, especially young people. I find young people that you just look at them and say hi, and they look at you as if you did something strange. It's a weird, it's like an alien behavior. So, continue reading. The study was sponsored by the global insurer and health service company, Cigna, which is concerned about loneliness as a societal problem, but also because it is not just making us sad, it can literally make us sick. So, you understand their motivation. Loneliness actually has the same effect on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which makes it even more dangerous than obesity, says Cigna, citing a 2010 report. And while the new findings don't draw any direct links to increased rates of suicide among teens or the opiate epidemic, Cigna CEO David Cordani says it's clear addressing loneliness will help solve other problems. Pause again. So very important note there. Um, they're saying loneliness. We know the Bible says that a broken spirit, it dries up the bone, and the bone is where you produce your blood. So imagine you're not producing good blood because you feel so sad inside. Well, you could see why. One of the best things to keep one happy is actually to have friends, to actually be able to sit and have communication with others. So 15 cigarettes a day, that's like you're dead. Anyhow, so it says here it's dangerous than obesity, which is fascinating. And when you think about loneliness, it even make me feel sick, just because you feel that dryness inside. You're just drying up, and you're drinking water. That's just fascinating. And while these findings don't draw a direct link to increased rates of suicide among teens and other opiate epidemic, so although they're saying it does not draw, so there was no conclusion to what is going on. But think about it. There's an increased opiate epidemic, and a lot of time people are using these things to take the pain away, and then increase suicide because the person don't want to live any longer because there's no value to life. Didn't get to talk about it much here, but if you saw in Canada, there was this young man that had killed about 10 people, I think it was, with a van. And his complaint was that he said that he's incel, INCEL, is involuntary celibate. And although involuntary celibacy is what he's talking about, but I think a deeper problem is that the person can't form meaningful relationships. And that makes life not happy. And before he killed himself, or killed the people, sorry, he had make reference to a young man in California who had killed a few people, including some female. And his complaint was that, again, he couldn't form any good relationships with female. And but yet his father was a famous movie producer, and he was driving a new car. He was, in college, it was seemingly like everything going for him, and he kept on complained before he did what he did that, he's in, he's at everything, life around him is good, everything is great, but yet he can't form these relationships. And so those meaningful relationships can really take away the positiveness of life, no matter how positive life outside can be. So I find it fascinating that this is becoming a problem, because think about it. I'll pause here again just to expand your thinking on this. Just think about that. Most of I say most because I could say all. I can't say all because there's always an anomaly. But most of the mass murderers have this one common trait that I've noticed over the years. And I think this is where people are missing, because people are saying, well, they just want to kill people. Yeah, They want to kill people, but I always note that they kill people in happy places where people are celebrating, they're happy, they're moving on with their life, and they always complain that their life is miserable. Even the guy that did the Las Vegas murder or mass shooting, he just seemed like a lonely wreck. And that anything he had in his life, he had to buy it with money. There was no relationship, but that was just based upon relationship. And this is becoming a problem. And as I say, if you look and go check out most of the mass murders you find, the one that did the shooting in Texas at the school, at the Texas at the church, he was miserable. He had all these bad relationship with these females. The one that down there in Parkland, all of them have the same similar thing. Can't form any kind of constructive good relationship. The guy that did the Newton shooting at the school, he ended up killing his mother. Just think about that. He killed his mother before he wiped everybody out, all these kids out. So it's this constant thing. It's like it's becoming a massive epidemic amongst this generation. But remember, whatever the story of Solomon's son, I think it's Rehoboam, whatever his father did, he intended to do it worse. So if his father was bad, he was going to be worse. And I think that's what it is when you look at the generation before this. They had the isolation, they don't want to deal with other people. Their kids now and kids are coming up. It's become an epidemic, but it's not something that you don't see in the general community. So it is, I believe, is what's pushing. That's where I conclude, because I've concluded this before this research come out, and you've known, if you listen to me here, I conclude a lot of this thing that this kind of part of the American culture where you isolate yourself, you don't deal with anybody, you don't have no social interaction, everything is on there, is electronic or paper. It's killing the society. And literally here they're saying it's so terrible that it's worse than 15 cigarettes a day. It is it's worse than obesity. So imagine a person is lonely and they go kill themselves or overdose on opiate, or they just get sick, and the art are gonna deal with that in a second. And they're doing worse than somebody who's obese. It's just fascinating. Anyhow, continue reading here. It says, if their sense of health and well-being is more positive, then less destructive activity transpire, Cordona says. The market research firm Ipsos posed a question online between February 21st and March 6th to more than 20,000 people on their people 18 and older in the U.S. The question were based on a UCLA's loneliness scale and used to create the Signal Loneliness Index. Also surprising, young people with the highest rate of social media use reported very similar feelings of loneliness to those who barely used it. Still, Cordani says meaningful social interaction was seen as a key to reducing isolation, to more face-to-face conversation are needed. And so some more face-to-face conversation are needed. So notice there, so even those who are using social media have this same feeling of isolation, So imagine you have a person who's 72 and older, have no friends, a lot of their friends have died, most of their activity, which I found out, I remember talking to the local newspaper, one of the salespeople over there, and I say, so what part of your paper has the highest readership? And they said, well, actually, if you want to be seen the most, you need to be in the obituary section. So I said, the obituaries? That's kind of strange. And the lady said, yeah, because you see, most people go, because we're in the area that I'm in is a more older people area. More older people either come here, retire, or something. So they say, she was saying to me that most people check it on a regular basis to see who died. Because when you're that age, a lot of what you do is just to see if any of the people you grew up with or knew are dead. So I say, okay, fair enough, makes sense. So just imagine a person in that part of life just dealing with death and going to funerals and connecting with people at funerals are more in a better situation than people who use social media and they're younger. Very strange. So this is what it is. So meaningful face-to-face conversation, important. So this is where, if you hear me keep talking about I'm sure if you listen to me here, you say, why you keep emphasizing every Tuesday the importance of church? Because I really believe that's what church is there for. That's one of the main thing. Go to a church, go talk to people. I don't know, even church, cultural cultural American churches are more like Catholic Church more and more. The mainline Pentecostal, but the mainline Protestant churches are more and more becoming like Catholic Church, where you just go in, you listen to a person, you talk some things, you hear a song, and you go home. Today, the churches are like that. You go, you hear, a more praise and worship song, and you hear the pastor talk something that seem relevant, seem radical. I always laugh when they say that type of stuff. It's like these people in their cushy lifestyle talking about radical. And then and then you get that radical stuff, you feel like you're a rebel because you heard the pastor talk about something and you have a mohawk. And then you go home and you're isolated still. You're isolated at the church, you're isolated. But not that type of church. A church that is more social, where people talk, they break bread together, like Pentecost. Anyhow, so notice face-to-face conversation is important. Continue reading here. It says, while some people may compensate for finding connections on social media, that can provide a false sense of relief. Say this person here, a health science professor at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. This type of socialization often leads people to spend time alone on computers in their homes, leading them to gain weight and shun face-to-face interaction, he said. So notice here, the aim of social media is to make you socialize, but it end up causing you to spend time on your phone by yourself. Since you could have somebody right next to you, as I've talked about, person right next to you, and instead of talking to the person, you're on social media communicating to people who couldn't care less if you live or die. But that's where we're at. So Jadish says, I have students who tell me they have 500 friends, but when they are in need, there's no one. This gentleman here says again. So imagine 500 friends, and when you're in need, there's no one. I've seen people about to have a marriage breakdown, and somebody come on Facebook and they say, look, my wife just cheated on me. And then people start saying, oh, no. This is not the place to talk about that. And you'd be like, this person have a friend they could call. I see people go on GoFundMe. You're familiar with that GoFundMe site, and they put up a GoFundMe campaign request. And I'm thinking, they don't have a church. They don't have some friends that they could call up and say, hey, could you GoFundMe? My family member just died or they're sick. Could you give me some money? So they go online. And it seems so sad because I'm like, man, you have an emergency. There's somebody that died. And you put up a GoFundMe campaign for $2,500. That blows my mind. You don't have a friend that can spot you $2,500. You don't have 10 friends. You could call your 10 friends and each of them give you $250 and they spot you that money. You have to go in a public way like that to people you don't know. But I guess they're your friends. But this is where that in hours over and over again, I see people do things like that. See, what happened? This person has a church. I don't even question that. It's not that. They don't have a church. If they go to a church, it's more like this kind of, you just sing, and then you go home. So continue reading again. Isolation is of such concern that young people 16 to 24 who are neither employed nor schooled are now tracked and classified as disconnected. So they don't go to school and they don't are employed. So they're now disconnected because they don't have somewhere they go regular for work and they're not going to school. So they're just like out of it. The former Surgeon General physician Vivek Murthy made the former physician general of Vivek Murthy made emotional well-being and loneliness a focus while he was in office, and now is writing a book and setting up an institute focused on the problem. He should start a church. Stress from loneliness is an insidious type of stress, Murphy says. It creates a biological response, Murthy says, that leads to chronic inflammation, damage tissue, blood vessel, and damage tissue and blood vessel, and an increased risk of heart disease, arthritis, and diabetes. So I could understand inflammation. I understand damaged tissue. I understand blood vessel because all that toxicity that's flowing around because of the hormones. I understand the increased risk of heart disease because it's stress on the heart. That's where you feel love, right? I could understand arthritis because of the inflammation. So a person is lonely and they have inflammation problem. I really understand the mechanism of diabetes more than probably it trips up your digestive process and it causes probably not proper flow of blood or nutrients to your cell. It's possible. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation has worked with the nonprofit project Measure America, nonprofit project Measure of America, to publicize the problem because disconnection in young people is such a predictor of poor health and early death. When people are disconnected at 16 or 18, it is not a spontaneous occurring event, says Sarah Bird Sharp of Measure America co-director. It's an accumulation of all the events in the teen's life, experiences in your family, and any trauma you face. There's considerable research on the 10 traumatic adverse childhood experience that contribute to poor mental and physical health association with disconnected teens and what should be done to address them. And I say this here, one of the trauma I think that has hit the youth, the young people in our countries is trauma where you can see like the parents breastfeeding them until they're 18 or giving them lollipop every day and telling them that they're going to win. They call it they joke about it in our society, they call it a participation trophy. And life is not as pretty because some of the meanest people you can deal with are actually children and young people. They'll be so mean and horrible. And that's how kids are. And if you just teaching your child that they don't have to fight, they don't have to struggle, they don't have to, push back, they can just be set up to fail in life. Because it's just, it's like mommy come and every time the child has a problem, might come and say, oh, come feed at my breast. And keep comforting that child and not telling the child, you better grow up. And so they don't know how to survive on these mean streets. And then they think everybody that pays them attention is their friend, including their drug dealers and stuff like that. Oh, they don't understand like confidence artists. You know what a confidence artist is? I'm sure you're familiar with it. Somebody that win your confidence and then rip you off. Yeah, I understand that episode. So, anyhow, it's the world. So they don't know who to trust. It says more than half of these 18 to 24-year-old members of Gen Z identify with 10 or 11 10 of the 11 feeling disassociated with loneliness, while more than 90% of people 72 and older report feeling close to others, having people to turn to and to talk to, and feeling in tune with others. So you can imagine the people 72 is doing better than the people 18 to 24. Fascinating. When people arrive at a home in Hamden, Connecticut, late last month, Andrew and Maureen Lipko were found dead of natural causes. The Connecticut Medical Examiner Office reported the elderly husband and wife both had heart disease, and Maureen also had diabetes. Neighbors called police after realizing they hadn't seen anyone come out of the house in weeks. Neighbors, including former New Haven school teacher Phyllis Grenett, says that wasn't unusual for the couple. Andrew Lipko occasionally would leave the home wearing a medical mask in one of his old car. His wife was almost never seen. You can be together and alone, Martha said. Senior Seniors often report loneliness, especially as they age, step out of the workplace, or lose family and friends. Mary Durrell, Chief Operating Officer at Cisco, Indiana's largest area agency for aging. Although older people report being less lonely than the youngest respondent, the Cigna study confirmed early studies that shows more than 40% of people over 65 report being occasionally lonely. Moving closer to family can actually make matters worse, adds Dana Robinson, CICOA Director of Marketing and Communication. As seniors lose social connection beyond the family before moving, adult children and their parents should devise a plan for how the senior will be connected to the community in their new home. So you could get a person that move in with their kids and they still have a problem because they can't connect with the community, people outside of their family. You know how that can go. Continue reading here. It says caregivers of seniors and with cognitive impairment often experience loneliness and isolation, whether they are seniors themselves or an adult child caring for a parent with dementia, says Nicole Fowler of Regent Streif Institute investigator at the Indiana University of School of Medicine, who studied the caregiver experience. Spouses in particular may have an enhanced sense of loneliness because their partners is still there but can no longer interact as he or she might have in the past. They're experiencing the loss even before that person is gone, which brings that unique sense of loneliness, Fowler says. Cigna is testing the integration of mental wellness into medical care at doctor's office in Denver, New Jersey, Virginia, and plans to expand the pilots to 10 office by the end of the year. The program will be offered to patients and with chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes, heart, gastrointestinal disease, depression, eating disorder, substance use disorder. Other solutions include getting enough but not too much sleep, as well as spending just enough time with family, at work, and exercise. So those are some of the solutions here. So very interesting piece, I would say, to say the least. Because the numbers are fascinating. The numbers here are fascinating. So many Americans say they feel lonely. And so the numbers here for your benefit, if you're not going to read the article, is that 40% of people feel left out. Right? So these are just the numbers across the board, not the numbers dealing with young people per se only, but just across the board, 47% of people feel left out. They don't feel like they're part of, they belong to, or they have an involvement in. So 47%. So that is almost 50% of this population. So this is why this is a widespread problem that, as I say, I've observed to be something that is troubling, and I've seen it in the young people more. I see it across the board, but I notice in the young people, it's a very strange thing. You can't even say hi. They'll be like, look at you like you're strange. 46% says sometime or always feel lonely. So 46% of people say sometimes. So just feel lonely. 43% said they feel their relationships are not meaningful. And that's something I've noticed also. Very superficial relationships. Very high, and then you say, who's that person? Said, that's my friend. You'll be like, how is that person your friend? That's weird. That's kind of weird friend. So no meaningful relationships. 43% feel isolated from others. So isolated from others is 43%. 27% says really or never feel there are people who really understand them. And then 20% of people say rarely or never feel close to people. And then 18% have people they can talk to. So 18% of people say they have people they can talk to. That's to me the one that I would need more explanation on, the last one that I just read. You're telling me if there's 100 people in a room, only 18% feel like people can talk to. Strange. That to me is, and I don't think it's getting better. But just imagine you have 20,000. So I say it right. You have 20,000 people survey, and 18% have people they can talk to. So that means if you need to talk to somebody, there's nobody for you to talk to. Not good. So this is where to me the problem comes down to, because again, if you don't have people you can talk to, then obviously everything that was said there becomes real, and probably the numbers are even higher. Because if you have nobody you can talk to, then surely the 20% that rarely or never feels close to people is real. If you have nobody that you can talk to, then you could say, well, yeah, then you don't really think people understand you. And then it's true that you will feel isolated. It's true that you feel the relationship you have are not meaningful, because if I have a relationship but I can't talk to people, and I'm assuming they're probably, when they say talk to, they're not talking about say, hey, hi, did you read what's going on in the newspaper, or how you feeling today, but talk to. Then you can see that their feeling relationships are not meaningful, because if I can't talk to you, then how meaningful is that relationship? And then that person sometime or always will feel, 46% will always or sometimes feel lonely, and then definitely feel left out if I can't talk to you. And so this is where I see more and more this is a major problem in the society. But the point there is that young Americans are the loneliest, which is where the problem, because I believe as you move on into the generation, now we're into Generation Z, the loneliness of people who are older feeling the younger generation is really taking it hard, because they just don't know how to have a conversation, how to interact, and how just to have friends, be friends, how to have real relationships. So then you think about it, if 18% of people have people they can talk to, then the rest of the people talking to each other is superficial. So it's like it's just a bunch of fake people. Everybody's just faking. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, this is my friend. But you really don't feel like you can talk to that person. And you really don't feel like the relationship is meaningful, but you have the relationship because you're just having a relationship. And if that's the case, then you can see that this is where secularism and all the Marvel movies and all these different superhero movies and all this type of activity, it leads to just lonely people who just having a materialistic lifestyle. And there's no hard religion, there's no hard relationships. It's just people in relationships of convenient. So now when you look at all these mass murderers and they keep having this thing in common, they're loners, they feel like they were bullied, they feel like they were left out. And they just say, well, I'm going to make everybody have it. It runs true. And I can see this becoming more of a problem. So we're not getting rid of it. We see this massive rise of opiate, and you say, well, part of the problem is Pfizer and all these other companies. But then you pull back and you say, well, yeah, but the people are like craving for it, and they know that people are going to die, but they still go on it. So what kind of pain they're feeling? And if you talk to people, they say what it is that the drugs take away the pain and it pulls away that pain. And you say, what pain? And they say, well, the pain of, the sadness, the loneliness. They talk about the young people who are abused or feel like they went through certain trauma. And you can see, because many times people are not prepared for life, because they're told it's going to be great, it's going to be good, and they have these idealistic concepts of the world. And I noticed the people who are most idealistic about how the world is going to be beautiful and things are going to be great, and talk about even saving the planet and stuff like that, they'll go to the Old Testament and they'll shock them, because there's blood, guts, and gore. And guess what happened? Every month they have to be going to funerals, burying their friends, because they ain't tough. And they don't understand this life is what you read in the Bible reads true to this day. And that's their experience. They're living out the Bible experience where they're just getting wiped out by the drones, because they don't understand that there's an enemy. It's called Satan. They don't believe that. there is people who are no good. They're called wicked in the Bible and so forth and so on. And you got to be careful. And you got to know this life is real, but they reject the thing that can help them and put some sense in their head and teach them to learn to have meaningful relationships and connect with people who are genuine. So they don't know the genuine from the fake. And this is how I'm seeing it geared up. So I see these young people big into video games, big into social media, big into all these things, but yet no meaningful relationship. Can sit and have a conversation. Young people who you could say, "What's wrong with you? You're sad and lonely. You can't find a girlfriend. You can't find a male friend who's just a friend. You can't hang. You're saying you're rejected, and you're like, why? Go to a church. Go to the gym. Go to places where people are at. Go start exercising. Go get a pet. Get a dog and start walking with the dog. Every time I see somebody with a dog, it has to be a nice dog. Oh man, I like that dog. And then, at least somebody will talk to you. I know you're going to probably make you feel sad because of why you probably don't like the dog because nobody comes to you and say you look good. They say the dog look good. But, but at least you have a conversation and, now the dog become your magnet to draw people to you. Do something. Just sit there. You have to fight back. And I think that's where I've not been taught to young people, and you have to take love from who give you love. If I'm walking to the community or I'm driving to the community and I wave at somebody, don't wave back at me. Well, you stay there and be lonely then. Who you want to wave at you? I wave at you. At least you should say, oh man, somebody wave at me. I'd be thankful for that, even if I'm not the target to waving at you. At least somebody paying attention. Even if I'm just doing it randomly to whoever I go by. At least somebody's waving and smiling at you. But if you live in a world of isolation and you don't think that you have to be friendly and push back and you be that person who give people a meaningful relationship, you call people, you be a friend, you comfort people, you show yourself friendly, then you're part of the problem. Because you're part of the reason why there's so much loneliness. But the person going to complain that they're lonely and feel sad and feel suicidal and want to take drugs and want to do all these destructive things because now they gravel. So if somebody come and say, hey, look, I want you to abuse yourself for me. Because they're so thankful to be in a relationship, they abuse themselves because they're so lonely. Not knowing that the solution to the problem is you give people meaningful relationship. You become something. So I don't know. Probably they can't because they don't know what to do themselves. They don't know how to form meaningful relationships. But this is what I'm seeing happening. And as we see this happening, then for those who are Christians, I would say, which I think all of you listening to me, I would say then this is where I believe in church. This is where I believe in having church that is not about praise and worship and about prosperity gospel, but church is about relationship. How to build each other up, how to look out for the best interests of each other, how to sometimes distract each other. By distracting each other, I really believe with the Sabbath, the Bible study, we're talking about day-to-day events, things that could take the person's mind off themselves, because I think after a while you're so concerned about yourself that you become ruinous to yourself and others around. Look at, the Bible says we should look on to the others, the business of others, other people's business. And I think that's part of the problem. People are lonely, need to go make somebody else happy and they'll find that loneliness will live. We take joy in serving others, and that's how I believe church should be around. And media should not, I don't believe social media has its place like an advertisement or a billboard. It's supposed to draw the person to people. I think many people, even preachers, they think social media is the end of it all, or the internet is the end. Like I'm here on the radio station, I always say to you, I want to talk to you. I want to communicate with you. I want to be able to call you or receive a call from you. I know that it's a good job, the thing I use the medium, but for me, I'm a social creature. I believe at the end of the day, this is just me communicating to you, but I can communicate to you on this way, but ultimately I want to be able to hold your hand. I want to be able to talk to you face to face, because that's where the real miracle takes place. Other than that, I think we're kidding ourselves believing that this technology is the end product. This is just a means to an end, the end to connect with people and ultimately to see people in the kingdom. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, again for your love. Thank you for coming down, sending your son down to this earth, and he, being the truth, manifests himself in the flesh, and he dwelt amongst us, and we could have seen, touch, hear. I pray, Lord, that we might be Christians who are the word has come into our lives, and we can be Christians to those who are around us. May you bless us, dear Lord, as we go through the rest of this day. May we be friends to each other. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Form Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.